China's goal to complete the Tianzhou space station. The cargo spacecraft and carrier rocket have already been transferred to the Wenchang spacecraft launch site. China's Tianzhou space station has entered the construction phase, which includes 6 major launch missions by the end of the year. 4 of them will be conducted at Wenchang Space Launch Site in southern China's Hainan province. Site personnel are preparing for the missions. Our reporter Zheng Yibing interviewed a staff member for mission planning there.
Now, the whole launch site is busy with multiple missions, particularly the 4 missions to be conducted here for completing China's space station. Therefore, our personnel are working full-time, and they are working hard and taking extra shifts. And the launch site has very high standards on preventing 3 types of errors. There are errors in command, operation, and direction. In this regard, we build up training platforms to solve these problems. Relevant staff can only go to their posts through pre-training in relevant operation and methods learning. There are 2 types of training methods that the launch site particularly emphasizes on. They are preveal and reveal. With these, our staff can begin to conduct missions. From the perspective of security, the launch site covers a very big area with complicated working systems. So we face difficulties in finding leaks, troubleshooting, and keeping order. We did checks in specified areas and technical security. Now everything goes smoothly, and we have laid a good foundation for the following missions. We spend a great amount of time on the job. It's normal to see many colleagues working from early morning until late at night. They're doing nameless jobs. It's because of their hard work that the whole system is moving forward in good order. We're confident about the following construction and development of Wenchang spacecraft launch site. We'll have to go through difficulties, but we believe that this place will truly help realize China's dream of exploring the space.
And that's it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on our digital media platforms. I'm Penina Karibe. Thank you for watching.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network. morning from Beijing and welcome to our special coverage of China's latest space mission. I'm Li Dongning. Well, today China will send a third ship loaded with supplies to its under construction space station. It will be taken there by a Long March 7 rocket, which is scheduled to depart from the Wenchang spacecraft launch site in the southern province of Hainan shortly. And the cargo includes propellant and other supplies to support crewed missions later this year. And authorities hope to have the space station completely built by the end of this year. And for the latest on the launch, our reporter Zheng Yibing is joining us live at the Wenchang launch site. Yibing, hello there. Well, it's quite dark behind you. I couldn't see it. I can't see anything. So the countdown has begun. How are things going over there?
Well, yes, Dongning, the weather is pretty good now. It's the final preparation before the launch of the Tianzhou-4 cargo spacecraft. And all systems at the Wenchang spacecraft launch site are closely monitoring the condition of the carrier rocket and the ground temperature and humidity and wind speed. And according to the launch site, despite the fact it's in the rain season here in Wenchang, the weather condition is pretty good, and it's a good launch window for Tianzhou-4 cargo ship. We participated in the vertical transportation of the combination of the spacecraft and also the Tianzhou cargo ship on April the day before yesterday. We also see the social media post from the beach, not far away from the site where people are waiting to see the moment of the launch in the distance here. The pictures they show on the social media about the stars and the sky and the thin cloud. And we're now standing on the launch tower of the command and control center at the site. We can see the launch tower is a combination of the rocket and the Tianzhou cargo ship. It's a little bit cloudy, but this feeling is pretty good, amazing. And the launch tower is glimmering in the distance. Almost an hour ago, China's manned space agency announced that Long March 7 Wi-Fi carrier rocket finished refilling and is expected to be launched about half an hour later. Because the time is different from the previous Tianzhou-3 cargo ship, which launched from here in the early afternoon last September. Here in Wenchang, the time is quite the opposite. So at this moment, the personnel at the site are devoted and they're standing by for the launch time. And this resupply mission for the core module of Tiangong is the first of 6 missions to complete in China's Tiangong space station by the end of the year. We'll send our best wish for the launch and the future Chinese space station. Back to you, Dongning.
Indeed, hope everything goes well. You mentioned the weather is very good for the launch. How about today's weather exactly? Is it a clear day? Because it's quite dark behind you. You can't see the weather there really.
Yes, allow me to explain. We actually arrived here almost a week ago. That time it was raining heavily, but gradually the weather is changing for good. So at this moment, you may not see clearly about the distance of launch tower, but the weather is pretty good. And the local temperature is about 26 degrees Celsius. And we're now heard from the personnel at the site. The launch tower, the 3 tiers of the protecting the window is gradually opening. So I guess in about 25 minutes, the launch tower will fully open and the launch itself will begin. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Zheng Yibing, reporting from Wenchang, the launch site of Tianzhou-4 in Hainan province in southern China. Well, China expects to complete 6 major missions this year as it builds its own space station, and 4 of the launches will take place at the Wenchang site in southern Hainan province. One of the mission planners tells us about the preparations.
Now, the whole launch site is busy with multiple missions, particularly the 4 missions to be conducted here for completing China's space station. Therefore, our personnel are working full-time, and they are working hard and taking extra shifts. And the launch site has very high standards on preventing 3 types of errors. There are errors in command, operation, and direction. In this regard, we build up training platforms to solve these problems. Relevant staff can only go to their posts through pre-training in relevant operation and methods learning. There are 2 types of training methods. that the launch site particularly emphasizes on. They are preveal and reveal. With these, our staff can begin to conduct missions. From the perspective of security, the launch site covers a very big area with complicated working systems. So we face difficulties in finding leaks, troubleshooting, and keeping order. We did checks in specified areas and technical security. Now everything goes smoothly, and we have laid a good foundation for the following missions. We spent a great amount of time on the job. It's normal to see many colleagues working from early morning until late at night. They're doing nameless jobs. It's because of their hard work that the whole system is moving forward in good order. We're confident about the following construction and development of Wenchang spacecraft launch site. We will have to go through difficulties, but we believe that this place will truly help realize China's dream of exploring the space.
All right, we are now joined in the studio by Professor Yang Yuguang from the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. Professor Yang, welcome to our special coverage. Well, our reporter just mentioned that Tianzhou-3 was launched in an afternoon, and now Tianzhou-4 is going to be launched at midnight Beijing time. Why the difference in timing?
Well, good morning, Dongning. You see that the basic requirement for a spacecraft to rendezvous and dock with the China's Tiangong space station, the most important thing is to they enter the same orbital plane. You see that that the orbital plane is relatively stable in the 3D dimension, but you know that the launch site is rotating with the Earth. So every day we don't have other choices but to when the launch site is rotate with the Earth and enters the orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. Only at this moment we can launch the Tianzhou-4 cargo ship. So this is a basic requirement, and also because of the features of the Earth's orbital dynamics, also the moment when the launch site passing through the orbital plane is different every day. So you can see someday we can see the launch in the afternoon, or someday like today in the morning, very early.
Right, and the Tianzhou-4 cargo spacecraft is reportedly to be very similar in design to its sister Tianzhou-3. As far as we know, the length of Tianzhou-4 is 10.6 meters long and 14.9 meters wide. Of course, it is when the solar panel is fully extended. How different is Tianzhou-4 from Tianzhou-3 or even Tianzhou-2?
Well, you see that with the successful 3 missions before, the Tianzhou cargo ship and the related technologies is already very practical. But the role of the different Tianzhou space stations are really different. You see that the basic configuration or the technical specifications of the Tianzhou-1 and the Tianzhou-2 are very similar. But the Tianzhou-3 and the Tianzhou-4 are similar. So the Tianzhou-1 and the 2 are having, both of them have 8 containers in their service module for storing the propellants. Well, for the Tianzhou-3 and the Tianzhou-4, both have only 4 fuel tanks, not like the Tianzhou-1 and the Tianzhou-2. Because you know that for the Tianzhou-1 and the Tianzhou-2, the major role of these vehicles not only provide supplies to the Tiangong-2 space laboratory or to the Tianhe-1 core module, but also to test the key technologies. For instance, the Tianzhou-2 plays a very important role in the technology verification phase. It also has the adapter to be grabbed by the robotic arm and test the technologies of repositioning from the front docking port to the side docking port, and also testing the technology of remote controlled manual docking for the future. So, it also has these purposes. But today, the Tianzhou-4, the major role of this spacecraft is providing the resupplies for the Shenzhou-14 crew. So today, according to the report, we have 5 tons of resupplies for the Shenzhou-14 crew, and also additionally 1 ton of propellants much less than the Tianzhou-4, because you know that based on the former missions, the Tiangong space station has sufficient propellant at current stage. So this time we reduce the resupply of propellants, but add other resupplies for the coming missions.
So it's more precisely designed in terms of space and carrying capabilities. And the rocket that is going to carry Tianzhou-4, the Long March 7 Y5, has been specially designed for Tianzhou-4 cargo ship. How special is it?
Well, you know that the Tianzhou spaceship is the most effective cargo ship in the world today. It only has a total mass about 13 to 13.5 tons, but the resupply can brought up to 6.9 tons to the space station. And the initial requirement to the launch vehicle Long March 7 is to launch spacecraft to the inclined orbit, similar as like the Tiangong space station, with inclination about
Professor Yang,
41 to 42 degrees. Okay.
I have to leave you there for a while because it's a 15 minutes countdown for the launch, and we're going to continue to observe the whole launch process. Professor Yang, you just mentioned the rocket, Long March 7 Y5, how special it is, and about the mission of Shenzhou-4. The main mission, of course,
yes,
is to carry cargo for the future crew to live in space. But how exactly different is the mission of Tianzhou-4 from the other three, the previous three?
Well, you know that, as I have mentioned, the former three has the role of testing key technologies, but this Tianzhou-4 is the major role of this cargo ship is to support the construction of China's space station. So it not only brings the resupplies for the daily life of the three crew members of the Shenzhou-4 team to stay there for half a year, but also, you know, that those instruments, equipments for the connecting the three modules together, to connect the Tianhe-1 and the Wentian, Mengtian, the three modules together. You mentioned that now it is T-minus 15 minutes of the launch of the Long March 7. This time, we not only ensure the safety and also reliability of the combination of the cargo ship and the rocket, but also shortened the testing and the verification phase during the launch. So this time, it is more practical than before.
And I just saw from the picture that the local wind speed is 0, and the local temperature is about 25 degrees. Is it perfect? Is it perfect weather for the launch?
Well, yes, it is very good weather for the launch. But you see, the Wenchang spacecraft launch site is very special in China. It is the only launch site near the sea. So the environment we also must consider about the influence of the sea. You know that the water vapor of the atmosphere near the Wenchang is much higher than the other three launch sites. So we must consider the influence. Moreover, you see that there are salt in the sea. So the water vapor also contains much salt. So this is also corrosive to the instruments and equipment on the rocket. So we must also consider about this influence. It must be well considered. But on the other hand, the position of the Wenchang spacecraft launch site is the most ideal one among the 4 launch sites of China. You see, the latitude of the Wenchang Satellite Launch Center is only about 90 degrees of the to the north. So this is very ideal for launch spacecraft and to have the maximum capability of the launch vehicles. So this is also the reason we choose Wenchang as a launch site for China's future more heavy spacecraft.
Well, you mentioned, Professor Yang, that Wenchang is the idealist launching site among the 4 that China has right now. But the manned missions departed from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Why?
Well, there are multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that due to the historical reasons. You see that our China's manned space program started in the early 1990s. So at that moment, we haven't constructed our Wenchang Satellite Launch Center yet. So at that moment, the most ideal one to launch a manned spacecraft is the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, because you know that it is in the northwest of China. So during the launch, the trajectory on the ground is along the North China. Most places are not very heavily populated, so it is very ideal. And moreover, you see that in emergency cases, the astronaut can land it on the land of China, so we don't need a very huge rescue fleet. But in the future, it is also possible. You know that China, you may also heard from the media that China is planning to have its potential human missions to the moon. So in the future, human missions to the moon, we need more powerful launch vehicles. So in the future, the China Manned Space Agency has released the next generation manned spacecraft. So this probably this will be launched in the Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Center because it will be even much larger than the biggest launch vehicle of China, currently speaking, Long March 5.
All right, Professor, we'll be getting back to you for more analysis and also introductions of the whole launch process. Now, construction of the China space station is scheduled for completion later this year, and CGTN's Yu Yang and Zheng Yibing look at what's left to be done.
China's space station, or Tiangong, is being built in low Earth orbit. Once completed, it will consist of 3 modules with a combined weight of over 180 tons. It has design lifespan of 10 years, with a capacity of 3 crew members for long-term stay. In this April, 3 astronauts returned safely to Earth aboard the Tianzhou-4 after over 5 months in orbit. Zhai Zhigang, Wang Yaping and Ye Guangfu were all in good physical and mental shape after landing.
The success of the Tianzhou-13 mission marks the completion of the technology verification phase, which included 6 deliveries. One of these was a core module, which will become the space station's living quarters, and 2 cargo ships were sent up to dock with the station.
6 more missions will complete the in-orbit construction of China's space station this year. Another cargo ship will be launched in May, and a month later, the Tianzhou-4 will carry 3 more astronauts to the core module, where they will stay for another 6 months.
A laboratory module called Wentian will dock with the core module in July. It would also be equipped with the same living facilities as the core module, so that the two together can support 6 astronauts living in space during rotation of crews.
The lab module to dock with the core module in October is Mengtian, marking the completion of the in-orbit construction period. At this point, a T-ship complex has been formed.
Another cargo ship and Shenzhou-15 manned mission will then follow, taking another 3 astronauts to stay in orbit for 6 months.
And the astronauts will perform extravehicular activities through a dedicated airlock module. It will also be the first time the station will have had 6 astronauts at the same time. They will be together for up to 10 days.
And Chinese authorities say the space station will hold many experiments from China and other countries. They say the space program will fulfill Chinese ambition to explore space and also be a place for international research and communication. Zheng Yibing,
Yu Yang, CGTN, Beijing.
All right, let's continue our discussion with Professor Yang Yuguang from the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. Professor Yang, the Tianzhou-4 cargo spacecraft will carry supplies and propellants, as what you said, for not only the next manned mission to the space station, but also for the upcoming construction of 2 space science laboratories. That
Yes.
is going to be a lot of cargo. And does this mean the cargo ship will be loaded with more freight than previous supply missions?
Well, you know that the maximum capability of the Tianzhou cargo ship is about 6.9 tons, as I mentioned. But in different missions, you realize that the configuration and arrangement is different. As I have mentioned today, this time we have less propellants, but more kind of resupplies and also equipment for the construction. you see that the construction of China's space station is not simply connect the 3 modules together, but also have other very complicated tasks. For instance, we must mount many instruments and equipments outside the not only the Tianhe core module, but also outside the Wentian and Mengtian module. That is the reason why the EVA technology is so important for us. And so we performed the 4 EVAs during the Shenzhou-12 and the Shenzhou-14 missions. So this time, for the Shenzhou-14 crew, we will also have very, very important task performing EVA outside the station, not only outside the Tianhe 1, but also outside the Wentian and the Mengtian module. Moreover, you see that the regenerative life support system, we have already tested this system very perfectly, but also we need some resupplies of parts and also other things necessary for the operation of this kind of environmental control system.
Right, and now it's 6 minutes of a countdown of the launch of Tianzhou-4. And Professor, I can see the Tianzhou-4 and the rocket are ready at the launch pad, and some vapor coming out of the rocket. Where is the vapor coming from?
Well, you know that you can see that there are many white fogs released from the launch vehicle. So that is the vaporized liquid oxygen released from the fuel tanks. You see that, as you mentioned, it is T-minus 5 or 6 minutes before the launch. So at this moment, we will stop the refueling to the liquid oxygen tanks.
Right, and
so,
it's about
because,
5 minutes before the launch. And,
so exactly.
And the staff there at the launch site are waiting. What are they waiting? What exactly are they doing before 5 minutes before the launch?
Well, in different stages, we have different tasks. For instance, you may heard of the commander ask every station, for instance, the radar station, the optical telescope station, and also other control systems to confirm that they are okay for the launch. So everything must be confirmed is okay. And also we have also some other checks on board the launch vehicle itself. So you can still see that although most of the rotation arms has already opened, but some still connected to the launch vehicle, still have the cables and also pipes connecting to the launch vehicle. So we also have the instruments to monitor the status of the launch vehicle itself. And just before the launch, maybe 1 minute, T-minus 1 minute, we will cut off all the connections to the launch vehicle. And at this moment, the power supply and also control all depends on the onboard computer of the launch vehicle itself. So only at this moment, we can also still get the data from the telemetry, from the radio. So if everything goes okay, we will continue the launch.
Right, and about the propellants of this mission, what technologies are being used to ensure stable and efficient combustion?
Well, you know that for the launch vehicle and for the Tianzhou-4 cargo ship is quite different. For the launch vehicle, we use environmental friendly propellants. We use a combination of kerosene and liquid oxygen. Both are environmental friendly. So the product of the combustion is only carbon dioxide and water. So it's harmless. But for the Tianzhou-4 cargo ship, it's different because you know that it works very much longer than the launch vehicle in the outer space for almost half a year. So we use what we call the hypergolic propulsion system, use UDMH or unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrogen and nitrogen tetroxide as the propellant. So both are very toxic and corrosive, but it can work in room temperature. So this is quite different. And also, we can still remember that we mastered the refueling technology during the Tianzhou-1 and the Tiangong-2 mission.
And we can see from the picture a very detailed picture of the rocket.
Exactly.
And
so you can see.
Yes.
So Dongning, you can see that all of the rotation platforms has already been opened. Only some connections of the rotation arms. So this means that all the preparation works has already been okay, and also the launch complex itself is okay. So all the ground crew has already withdrawn from the launch pad. So the combination is in a unmanned condition.
Right, and you mentioned the technologies that are used in propellant. And we all know that a reasonable and accurate amount of propellant is very decisive, very crucial for a safe and economical journey. What factors should be taken into consideration when trying to figure out how much propellant is needed, how to be prepared as precise as possible?
For example, for the refueling of the oxygen at this moment, we must very carefully prepare, as you mentioned. You see that the vaporization. Okay.
Okay, Professor, we are now seeing in the picture, I think you can see it now, the arms are beginning to detach from the rocket.
Yes.
It's just about 1 minute before the launch.
Yes, as we have mentioned, all the cables will be detached from the vehicle itself. So at this moment, the power supply has turned from the ground to the vehicle itself.
So the last few moments before the launch are very important. So what exactly are the staff looking for?
Well, the monitoring all kinds of parameters, such as the power supply, the control, and also other parameters. And at the T-minus
30
7
seconds
minutes,
before the launch, and the commander just gave the orders.
we countdown.
Okay, about 15 seconds before the launch. It's I'm getting very thrilled. So it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the rocket is ignited and begins to fly into the sky and begins to leave the sweet home Earth.
So at 15 seconds after the liftoff, we will turn the direction, which is called pitch over.
So how long will Tianzhou-4 reach destination?
Well, about 8 to 10 minutes. It will reach the altitude about 200 kilometers high and its final orbit.
So according to the commander, that everything is going on very well now?
Yes, we can see the camera mounted on the launch vehicle itself. We can see the 2 rocket boosters.
So the boosters are now being let go.
Yes, and the 4 boosters will be separated at about 170 seconds. And you can hear the voice of the ground staff reporting the telemetry data they received, and it goes very normal. Everything is okay.
And the fire is turning blue right now instead of red.
It's a little bit cloudy in Wenchang, so we cannot see the trajectory from the ground now. But we can still see the video sent from the camera mounted on the vehicle.
The camera from the rocket.
Yes. And also we can see the 3D animation.
So the
Optical
process
and
is
the
going
radar
on very
tracking
smoothly
system is
so
normal.
far.
The telemetry signals are normal. Wenchang flight status is normal.
So we can see that the launch vehicle is already turned the direction to the southeast. And the next critical step will be the separation of the 4 boosters. We can see the shape of the flames of the rocket engines is quite different because of the atmosphere is already, the density is already very low.
The radar is going very well, and yeah, we're seeing
as we discussed.
Yeah, seeing the signal is not that stable, but it's good enough. And we're seeing from the camera angle, from the angle of camera attached to the equipment cabin of Tianzhou-4. And you're now watching our special coverage on the launch of Tianzhou-4. And it has been launched.
Great. The boosters have already separated.
The rocket boosters are now being let go, as we can see.
Okay. The first stage separated at the moment about 3 minutes. And the next critical step will be the jettisoning of the payload fairing, the 4.2 meter wide payload fairing.
Are the boosters already detached from the main body of the rocket already?
Yes, not only the 4 boosters, but also, according to the voice of the commander, the first stage is also being already separated very successfully.
So they are applauding for the success of the first stage detachment.
Yes, yes. So what you see is the second stage, the 4 engines, 2 of the 4 engines mounted on the tail of the second stage.
So the first stage separation has been completed, which means the main engine is being cut off?
Yes. And now it's the working of the second stage. Use 4 engines, which is called YF-115. Each has a thrust about 18 tons.
So the engine was cut off already, and the separation actually happens when a high-speed fuel is released by the engine for the second stage.
Yes, and also you know that now we have 4 engines working, but before the end of the work, 2 of them will be shut down first, and the other 2 engines will continue working until they adjust the orbit, which is accurate enough for the Tianzhou-4 cargo ship.
So far, so good.
Exactly.
So we can see from the small picture there, the whole...
Yes, this is a 3D animation, but this animation is driven by the real date, which means that the position, the attitude, and also the condition of the engines is based on the real date received from the launch vehicle itself. So it is real.
It is real time. So the time of flying is now about 340 seconds already.
Well, you can also see the dash lines, which means the data link between the launch vehicle itself and also the ground station. We have multiple ground stations to monitor the status of the launch vehicle.
Great.
Okay, it's already about 6 minutes.
6 minutes already?
Yes.
So
the next step...
The flying angle is being automatically adjusted towards the destination.
Yes. So the next step will be the shutdown of 2 of the 4 engines of the second stage. Because these 2 engines are fixed, and the other 2 engines can change its direction for the attitude control, and also for the very precise trajectory adjustment.
So what's the significance of shedding all those engines?
Well, the shutdown of all engines means that the working of the launch vehicle is already completed, and if the orbit parameters is accurate enough, this will means that the successful launch of the mission. So the launch itself will be a successful one.
When is the rocket entirely let go of the Tianzhou-4 capsule?
At the moment when the Tianzhou cargo ship is separated from the second stage, usually happen at about 8 to 10 minutes, actually about 9 minutes also.
Pretty soon then.
Very, very, very soon it will happen. So you can see that the second stage works much longer than the first stage.
Yes.
Although the thrust of the engine is much smaller than the first stage, but it works longer. And also, as I have mentioned, it used a rocket engine called the YF-115, which also used a combination of kerosene and also liquid oxygen. It has very high performance.
But is the propellant pollutive? I mean,
kerosene and liquid oxygen. With kerosene as the fuel and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer. Well, you see that our Long March 5, the 4 boosters of Long March 5 use the similar engines of the first stage of the Long March 7. So we use the same engine for different launch vehicles, which can bring us more practical, more reliable choices.
So everything is going on very smoothly so far. And as
exactly.
we can see something not very relevant to the launch, actually, we can see all the staff there at the commanding center wearing masks because China is experiencing COVID
pandemic
right now, and they're observing the restrictions very strictly.
Well, we can still see the video, get the data from the camera mounted on the second stage.
Right.
And also the working of 2 of the 4 engines.
So this camera is attached on the rocket or on Tianzhou-4?
It's on the rocket.
On the rocket.
You can see the flame. Yes. So you know that the transmitting video is always a relatively different task for the communication system. So we can see the very clear video to monitor the working status of the 4 rocket engines.
The flame is so beautiful right now, if you can see it.
Exactly,
and,
especially at night.
Exactly. Well, the propellant, I'm still curious to know, are they going to cause any pollution in the universe?
No. The product is only carbon dioxide around water. Oh, you can hear the voice. That's the fixed engines are already shut down.
Right. So the Long March 7 rocket is letting go of the Tianzhou-4 capsule. Is it?
Well, we can hear the voices in the flight control center. Okay. So the Tianzhou-4 is already separated from the launch vehicle.
Now Tianzhou-4 is making its way alone in orbit.
Solar panels.
Among so many stars. Oh my God, so beautiful.
Yes, it's already in outer space with the altitude about 200 kilometers high.
Yeah, it's like science fiction. And its orbit landing has just confirmed. Well,
we still need to check the measurement. We need to measure the orbital parameters to confirm that it is okay. You know that because today we need to rendezvous with the Tiangong space station, so the accuracy of the orbit is very important. So we need to check that. And also, as I mentioned, we also have a very critical step to unfolding the solar panels of the Tianzhou cargo ship.
So what we're seeing now is the 3-dimensional animation, right?
Exactly. As I emphasized, it's a real data-driven 3D animation. So what you see is the position is a real position. The data is get from the telemetry data sent by the Tianzhou itself and being displayed on this 3D animation. So the next step will be the unfolding of the solar panels.
Right. So we need to wait patiently for the solar panels of Tianzhou-4 to fully deploy.
Exactly. Okay, it's already almost 700 seconds.
Seconds, right. It's amazing. It's just a short time. Tianzhou-4, the space module, has already reached the outer space.
Low Earth orbit. It's very typical for the launch of a low Earth orbit spacecraft. As you asked, the Long March 7 will play a major role in the future of China to launch the payload to the low Earth orbit, because it is designed for this kind of mission. And also, it has a derivative called the Long March 7A, which has a third stage, is to launch the higher payload.
Long March 7 is thinner than Long March 5, right?
Exactly. Very professional. But they have the same diameter, but the length is much longer. Exactly.
So it's called, now the solar panel is fully deployed, is fully extended, reaching 14.9 meters. Can we call it success now, or too early?
As I mentioned, we still need the measurements of the orbital parameters. We will get the data from the vehicle and also from the ground station. We will analyze the data and get the accurate result. And it will be the success of launch will be announced by the commander of the Wenchang spacecraft launch site.
You know what, Professor Yang, I'm really envious of Tianzhou-4 right now. It can fly in the outer space, in the universe so freely.
And please notice that there are many delicious food inside this Tianzhou-4.
Well, I don't know if I'm envious about the food there. I think the food on the Earth is better, but yeah.
And also, but also, you know that the food is based on the personal choices of the Shenzhou-14 crew, because the Shenzhou-14 is already been chosen, and the food inside this Tianzhou-4 will be chosen according to their own choices.
Yeah, right. It's much, you know, it's out of my expectation. It's out of my expectation.
You know,
the food varieties and the qualities and flavor. I mean, according to the feedback of the previous crew, they're pretty good, actually.
Yes, you know that Mr. Zhai Zhigang is also like you. He's from the northeast China, so there are many food chosen for him. I believe that you will also like that.
You've told
and also,
our audience of my secret already.
Is my friend, and she's a girl, so she is more like sweet food.
Right. So they can suit for all the food preferences of all the crew members. That's amazing.
Yes, but also we need to consider about the nutrition, and also very important to ensure the calcium and to prevent the loss of bones during their long-term residence in the station.
Though the Tianzhou-4 is flying in outer space now alone, it carries a lot of cargoes for different functions, for different uses, and I just saw a report that actually there are more than 200 packages. Is there a way to make it easier for the crew members, 3 or 4 at most, to find the things that they need?
Yes, first, you know that for different type of cargoes, the belt on the package it has different colors. There are blue, there are yellow, and there are other colors. So they can have the classification based on the colors. By